Snake Little Nip Hustle. Big shout out to SPI, Spotter Low. You know I'm in the black box. Had to come through, tap in, show love one time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Stay tuned. All that.
Yo, my boy 504 Street Stories. He been on it. He been covering this Big U from way over there. He cover a lot of his local stuff too. But he been covering this with a very neutral, unbiased mind. He peeped the bush. Everybody can admit, yeah, Big U was in big trouble. It don't look good. But they try to run with these untrue narratives, these bush narratives that they actually guilty of. A lot of time they get away with it. But I listened to this when I was just in traffic. So I decided to come react to it. You know, usually I don't listen to the content prior, but I like the twist he put on this. Yeah, oh my mama, let's check it out with no further ado and see what he say these queerdos, these YouTube streets have been up to.
Eugene Henley Jr. has become known in recent years for his charity work to reduce gang violence. Now the FBI is accusing him of running a criminal enterprise that committed a series of crimes.
I just need y'all prayers. I need y'all to... I don't even know what to say.
Remember Big U? He turned himself into federal custody after a shocking indictment alleged he committed a number of crimes.
And here we go. Apparently, I'm Big U lawyer now. That's what I've been told. Soon as you correct something, suddenly it's why you defending him. Defending him? From who? The YouTube Supreme Court already broke down the superseding indictment nonsense, already explained stacking a deck, already explained how pressure tactics work, already walked through how federal cases expand when somebody refuses to fold. And now I'm back again, knocking already head. Oh, he back, he riding, he must know something. Yeah, I know how federal procedure works. That's what I know. And this next part, y'all ain't gonna like it. Because now we stepping into that wiretap fairy tale shit. The one that said Big U knowingly used the tap phone line to line people up for the feds. Yeah, that one. The dramatic one. The this sound good in the thumbnail one. Like, slow that shit down, bruh. So you telling me a man allegedly running major operations knowingly used a federal wire to secretly help the government and the government just didn't mention it? You see how wild that shit sound when you say it calmly? If that were true, it would be the whole headline. Long-time informant exposed. Gang leader secretly cooperating. Double agent indicted. That's how indictments work, homie. Government does not hide betrayal narratives. They highlight them. They weaponize them. They use them to inflame juries. Because nothing threatens a prosecution like betrayal. Breach of trust. Secret cooperation. Man, that's courtroom gold right there. So why is there zero mention of it? Not buried, not hinted at, not even implied. Zero, bruh, zero. Because it didn't happen. Let's get surgical on these bitches. If someone knowingly used a telephone for years to feed information, why file a motion to suppress the wiretaps? Why try to throw the recordings out? A motion to suppress is filed to block the government from using these calls as evidence. If your whole story is I was helping them, you don't try to bury the tapes. You play the tapes. You let the jury hear them. You say, see, I was a good guy.
Exactly. What would he have to lose now? What, y'all ain't finna throw me under the bus? I was out here helping y'all. That would be on the tip of his tongue.
Oh, wow.
You know it's 26,000 wiretaps, right?
Yeah, he's got a lot of phone calls that have been recorded.
What would you say if the same phone and all your socials is named and the Sue Surf wrote New Jersey Rolling 60 indictment in 2021? You are target number 4. Big U Eugene Henley, gang leader supplying drugs and guns to the New Jersey Rolling 60s from Los Angeles. And yet for the next 4 years, you stayed on the same phone.
Man, if your phone hit, you get a new one. That phone hit. Knock it off.
Calling all your homies.
Cap.
Stop it.
Get some help.
Instead, suppression motion. Why? Because the defense is attacking the legality of the wire. Under Title III, the government has to prove necessity. They have to show how they tried other investigation methods first, if they were lazy, if probable cause was weak, if the affidavit had problems, if they fail to minimize unrelated cause. That wire can be challenged. That's federal procedure. So again, bruh, why would somebody who knew for years their phone was tapped try to suppress the very evidence they supposedly created intentionally? You can't explain that shit at all because it collapses the lie. Here's another fact that somehow gets ignored. The moment it became known the phone was tapped, usage changed. Big U used other phones to contact his wife. That's documented. That's in the government factual basis. That in itself is behaviorship once he found out. That's reaction once he found out. If you knowingly
And just like I said, they had them phones tapped too, but he did try it.
feeding information through a tap phone for years, why switch once it's exposed? Why stop using it? That contradicts the very fantasy that they use to create the lie, because the fantasy required long-term knowledge, but Big U's conduct shows adjustment once awareness happens. That's not cooperation at all. That seemed like damage control to me. Here's something else. If someone was an active informant who went bad or exceeded authority, the government would have absolutely led with that. It wouldn't hide it and surprise everyone in that trial. They would have framed it in the indictment, a post-detention memo. They'd say he abused his informant relationship, he breached trust, he operated as a double agent. That strengthens their narrative. Prosecutors don't leave leverage sitting on the table, ever. Now let's shift to that developing options nonsense. These dudes on the internet claim that his nonprofit was secretly used to set up gang members for arrest. That one there sound more dramatic than a Martin Scorsese film, except there's zero mention of that in the indictment.
That's the phone that he got.
Yeah, that is named in the contract. 7th Street Division issued him a BlackBerry as a police issue phone to report all gang violence in his grid area. And this is an annual contract. If he doesn't produce, then they take it. He's been having a contract 10, 11 years. He did such a great job. He went from $550,000 a year. They gave him a $440,000 bonus. We send the contract. But listen, fuck all that.
Cuz it's actually putting us in paperwork, right? And like doing like real police.
The slow tartar. Look how you just said, fuck all that. Get to incriminating him. First, I'm finna make it sound like he working with the people, but fuck all that. Get to incriminating him because he got the people fooled. They giving him more money and more money. They think he a good guy. What you got to say, Loose Lips? This is crafty, crazy, downright disgusting, dirty. Dulo. Wow.
Shit, I seen the nigga get like 20 guns, and when he got 20 guns, he's selling them to the homies. But I'm like, why are you writing down the serial numbers? So it's like he was doing like shit like that, and I didn't catch on. So it was like, I'm waking up now. You get what I'm saying?
Why?
I can't
If a
read what that
nonprofit
say.
was the front for assisting law enforcement to entrap people, that would be explosive. That would be headline material. Anti-gang nonprofit used as criminal front. That makes the case stronger. That paints motive. That paints deception. That influences the jurors. And yet, nothing, not a sentence, not a paragraph, because them shits is fiction, bruh. Developing Options is a documented nonprofit that began in 2004, focused on youth intervention in the 77th grid zone. You can dislike the man, you can question the organization, you can even critique outcomes, but you cannot invent a federal conspiracy narrative with zero documentations to back it up, homie. That's not analysis at all. That's fake storytelling to push a false narrative. And this right here is what's really dangerous. Once these stories get repeated enough times, they start sounding real. Not because they support it, but because they're dramatic. And drama spread faster than procedure. But federal court don't run on drama, bruh. It run on filings, affidavits, statutes, motions, standards, and logic. You can bash the man all you want. You can even lay up there and critique his case. You can debate the charges. Once you start manufacturing informant fantasies, that collapse under basic procedural review.
it takes somebody from the other side of the country to come in and analyze and put these dudes on blast. Salute to the homie, man. Oh my, go follow up 504 Street Stories, man. Oh my mama.
Now you not analyzing, you speaking on open cases trying to slander the man. So who really the police? I'll wait, and there's a difference. This isn't about defending Big U at all. It's about cleaning up narrative that don't survive 5 minutes under federal law logic. Because once we allow dramatic lies to replace documented process, nobody's safe from internet indictments. And that's the real issue.
And I hesitate to even open this can of worms, but we have reason to be skeptical about your statements about Big U because you obviously co-signed loose cannon telling the story about how Big U basically got Nipsey killed or whatever.
We never said he got Nipsey killed.
Okay, but you're saying that he had premeditated knowledge that Nipsey was going to get killed.
What he's saying is...
And that didn't really pan out, although a lot of people are now looking at those statements as if they might have a lot more validity than they once thought.
Let's get into this part that people keep skipping over because it requires thinking. Wiretaps are not casual. They are not. We think he might be talking. Let's just listen. Federal wiretaps fall under Title III. That means judges don't just rubber stamp them because somebody acts nicely. The government has to submit an affidavit. That affidavit has to lay out probable cause. Why traditional investigative methods fail. Why undercover agents weren't enough. Why search warrants weren't enough. Why surveillance wasn't enough. Why informants weren't enough. Listen to me again. Affidavit has to lay out probable cause. Why traditional investigative methods fail. Why undercover agents weren't enough. Why search warrants weren't enough. Why surveillance wasn't enough. Why informants weren't enough. Let's slow this whole made up fairy tale shit down. If Big U was knowingly using a telephone to line people up for the feds, why would the government need a Title III wiretap in the first place? That shit don't make sense. Why would they all get necessity? Why would they say we tried everything else and it wasn't enough? You don't wiretap your own cooperator just for shits and giggles. You debrief them. You put them in the room. You build cases through profit. You don't secretly.
You have them bringing up certain conversations with other individuals, debate them into incriminating themselves, which also apparently is not a part of the indictment.
They recalled them for years, hoping they help.
He was apparently using other individuals' businesses and planting listening devices in their vehicles, allegedly with their knowledge. I haven't really dived into it, but none of that is alleged toward Big U at all whatsoever. They haven't said that he was even playing both sides, turning in people to the grid and still being out here with the gangsters. They said he was getting donations under the nonprofit and pocketed them, but they weren't saying nothing about him doing anything to incriminate anyone else whatsoever.
That's not how this shit works. The wiretap statute literally requires the government to show that other methods fail. So if somebody was actively helping, that destroys necessity. And if necessity fails, the wire fails. You see how the lie collapses once you apply actual logic and procedure? Now let's just talk about how wiretaps actually move. When a wiretap is authorized, it's for a limited period, usually 30 days. After that, they have to go back to the judge and renew it. And in those renewals, they have to show progress. They have to show what they gathered. They have to justify continuing surveillance. If someone knowingly cooperating on that phone, that would appear in the narrative. It would change the tone of the renewal because now the government isn't trying to uncover unknown activity. They're documenting a relationship. And again, none of that appears. Now let's get into minimization. Under Title III, agents are required to minimize, meaning if a call is clearly personal, clearly unrelated, clearly privileged, it's supposed to stop listening. So when you...
I mean, I shouldn't hear any of my conversations on none of them wiretaps. Although I'm aware that my voice has been heard on them, I know I haven't had any conversations of any consequence. But yeah, that's crazy.
hear the idea that someone was just casually using a tap phone for years to feed the feds information, understand something. That would require coordination. That would require documentation. That would require an established cooperation framework. And cooperation frameworks are not hidden once indictments drop. They are exposed because prosecutors use that to frame the motive. See? He was playing both sides. That's powerful language in court, bruh. And yet, silence. No breach of trust narrative. No double agent storyline. No confidential source turned rogue. Nothing. Now let's deal with this timeline shit. The moment awareness of the tap becomes clear, Big U behavior changes. That boy phone changes. Communication routes change. That's not the action of someone intentionally feeding information. That's the action of someone realizing surveillance is active. If you knowingly using a wire to assist law enforcement, you don't pivot away from it once it becomes public. You don't scramble. You don't adjust. You just continue. Because the whole time it was part of your strategy. So the story that these dudes selling on the internet requires you to believe: 1, Big U knowingly used the tap phone for years. 2, the government never mentioned it. 3, the indictment omitted it. 4, the detention memo omitted it. 5, suppression motions were filed anyway. 6, Big U's behavior changed once exposure occurred. That's not a theory. That's big time contradiction. The moment people start saying he knew the whole time, they not just speculating. They're accusing someone of being a federal informant. That's not a small allegation. That carries weight. That carries street consequences. That carries reputational consequences. And you better have documentation when you say it, because in prison, you gonna get killed or run up top, period. In the streets, the game has changed so much, they letting these rats live. Some they even make famous.
Facts. The boy Woody to be in particular. I don't know how he gonna last. Charleston White, we got footage of him sitting up on the stand, pointing his partner out. But he famous though. T.I. participated on behalf of the prosecution in a murder trial where he testified for an excess of 30 minutes against Hosea Thomas, giving details to an incident to where his boy Phil lost his life, where Hosea Thomas was found guilty and received 60 plus years. But T.I. still been able to maintain a good profile amongst the industry and the gangsters and everybody. It's crazy.
I swear, bruh, you can't make this shit up. It's like I said, no, I heard this, no, I heard that, no assumptions. You need documentation, paperwork, and not no docket sheet either. And if any of the bullshit that they're saying really existed, it would be in the charging documents, because the government does not sit on leverage. They stack the deck. They lead with what hurts. And if there was a betrayal angle from an informant, it would be front and center. Instead, we have wiretap challenges. We have suppression motions. We have procedural battles. That's what's actually happening. Understand something. Federal wiretaps are technical, structured, judicially reviewed, and strategically used. They are not YouTube plot twists, homie. Oh, did you see what he said about the Nipsey on wiretap shit? And when you understand that, the fairy tale starts looking exactly like what it is, a fairy tale. Man, y'all dudes be saying anything and believing any of this old dumbass shit this dude.
Like me and dude were in jail together. Imagine that. That's what he said though, out his mouth. Said we go back to the juvenile side of the county and nothing could be further from the truth. But hey, it's the dude y'all choose to believe.
Be saying on the internet. That's how indictments are structured. They tell a story, they build narrative, they create betrayal scenarios, and that shit they saying online will be the biggest betrayal scenario possible. And yet, silence, because it doesn't exist in the record. And here's where it gets dangerous. People are confusing community intervention with federal cooperation. Those are two completely different things. Working to reduce gang violence in the city is not the same as secretly feeding law law enforcement targets. One is social programming. The other is criminal informant behavior. Those are not interchangeable, bruh. Now let's be real for a second. If a nonprofit was secretly operating as a pipeline to help convict gang members, that wouldn't stay hidden for years. Not in Los Angeles, not in that environment, not with those dynamics. Somebody would expose that shit a long time ago. Because that type of
Same queerdos that's trying to put the jacket on him, they jumped out first saying it was 60, 75, 30, 20, telling on Big U. Now they flip, they just don't know what to say, what to do.
betrayal just not stay quiet. And the government would absolutely document it in a high-profile indictment because it helps them. Always remember that. If something makes the prosecution stronger and it's missing, there's usually a reason. Now let's circle back to the bigger issue. When people start inventing law enforcement conspiracy narratives with zero documentation, they're not analyzing a case. They build the drama that can potentially hurt that man's case. And drama travels fast on the internet, especially when it sounds explosive. Now here's what's really happening. There's a case moving through federal court. There are suppression motions. There are conspiracy allegations. There are superseding indictments, which we already broke down as a pressure tactic when someone refuses to cooperate. That's the battlefield, not secret non-profit spy operations, not double agent fairy tales, actual procedure. And once you understand how federal prosecutors build cases, you stop falling for the dramatic side stories that don't show up in the paperwork. But because paperwork wins in court, not some dude imagination on the internet. Now let's close this one here out the right way, because at this point, it's not even about Big U. It's about discipline. It's about how reckless people get when the federal case hits the timeline. Everybody turns into an expert overnight. Everybody suddenly fluent in conspiracy law. Everybody decoding indictments like
I remember 600 clown Big U for using the word pro se over pro perk. He was on here just blah, have absolutely no knowledge of how this shit worked and trying to clown a nigga and was exposed. And he's still in it though. Reporting, keeping up, educating himself, trying to educate the public. This shit's crazy.
his rap lyrics. Everybody building narratives off vibes. And the wild part, most of the damage ain't even coming from the government. It's coming from the commentary, from people who don't understand what a grand jury actually is, how witnesses get subpoenaed, how secrecy works, how stacking the deck functions, why superseding indictments appear, what suppression motions mean, how Title III wiretaps actually operate. Instead of saying I don't know, they fill in the blanks. And filling in the blank in any open case is dangerous, because once you say somebody knowing and use a tap phone to line up people, you calling them an informant. That ain't small at all. That ain't light. That ain't entertainment. That shit heavy. And if you don't have documentation, you gambling with somebody's name. You gambling with your own life. Now let's clean this up one more time. Simple. If he knew the phone was tapped for years, he wouldn't move to suppress the wiretap. If he was secretly feeding information, the government would have highlighted that betrayal. If the nonprofit was a set-up pipeline, it would be in the indictment. If he was cooperating, it wouldn't be stacking the deck when he's talking about going to trial. None of these pieces align with the lie they saying on the internet. And federal court is about alignment, documents aligning, statements aligning, procedure aligning, not storytelling and fake bullshit. Now here's the deeper issue. People think federal cases move like street politics. They don't. They move like chess, slow, layered, strategic, methodical. Feds don't need drama. They don't need plot twists. They don't need cinematic betrayal stories. They need evidence that survives in court. That's it. And when someone refuses to cooperate, they escalate, they tighten, they apply pressure. That's not mysterious at all, homie. That's mechanical. So when you see the superseding indictments, that's not some seeking information revealed. That's pressure. When you see wiretap challenges, that's defense strategy. When you see suppression motions, that's procedural combat, not double agent behavior. Here's the part people gotta sit with. You can dislike the man. You can think he guilty. You can think think he innocent. That's your opinion. But once you start manufacturing cooperation narrative without paperwork, you cross from commentary into fiction. And federal fiction is dangerous because federal court does not care about your narrative. It cares about what can be proven. And until trial unfolds, until motions are ruled on, until evidence is tested, everything else is just noise on the internet. This whole situation exposed something bigger though. People love feeling like insiders, love thinking like they crack something, love believing they see what nobody else sees. But real federal procedures is not flashy, it's technical. It's boring to people who want drama, and that's why the dramatic lie spreads faster than the procedural truth. Because truth requires patience, and patience don't trend. So let's keep this here clean. This wasn't about defending Big U, this was about correcting the nonsense bullshit going on the internet. There's a difference. You don't have to cheer for somebody to demand accuracy. You don't have to like somebody to reject a lie. And if you really care about justice, you don't let information run wild just because it sounds good. Because today it's him. Tomorrow it could be anybody. Tomorrow it could even be you, partner. And once we start normalizing inventing federal narrative with zero documentation, we all one rumor away from conviction in the court of public opinion. That's the real issue, not the indictment, not the wiretap, not the nonprofit. The commentary, clean that shit up, bruh. Don't speak on it at all. You heard me?
Shit. Got your ass.
Yeah, that's add a little clarity to some of the false narratives you see going around associated with Big U and what may or may not be taking place with his case. Free cuz, free all the real. Oh, my mama.
Let me get you on camera. Where you from?
California.
Oh, for real. Where you from? Serious though.
Watts, baby.
I know where you from though. Where you from?
Eastside PJ Watts.
I'm from Grace 2 House, nigga.
Right.
They call you, homie?
Big Slice.
Big Slice?
Yes, yes.
All right, nigga. They call me Puto, cuz.
Right.
You in that hustle. Big shout out to SPI, Spotter Low. You know I'm in the black box. Had to come through, tap in, show love one time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Stay tuned. All that.